I tiptoed into the kitchen around 2 a.m., my thirst driving me to get a glass of water. As I reached the kitchen, hushed whispers reached my ears, prompting me to hide behind the cabinet and eavesdrop on my brother and stepmother. Their conversation sent shivers down my spine. "This plan is going to work," my brother asserted confidently. "I can feel it in my bones." My stepmother, Evelyn, responded in a conspiratorial tone. "Did you remember to leave the letter?" "Yes," my brother confirmed. "They'll never know what hit them." I couldn't comprehend the context of their conversation, but it sounded nefarious. My curiosity grew, and I decided to shadow them as they moved into the garage, positioning myself behind the door to remain undetected. Their actions became increasingly suspicious as they began loading items into the car. Unable to resist my curiosity, I silently ventured into the garage and cautiously opened the trunk, hoping to catch a glimpse of its contents. Just as I did so, I heard them returning, and without thinking, I dived into the trunk, seeking refuge from their prying eyes. The car's engine roared to life, and I realized that I was trapped in the trunk. Panic set in, but I suppressed it, determined to find out what they were up to. As the car started moving, I began to scream as loudly as I could. Just as I was about to take a deep breath to scream even louder, I heard Evelyn's voice. "Did you hear something?" she questioned. "I thought I heard your sister's annoying voice." My brother reassured her. "Don't worry, Evelyn. If Paley ever found out, we would take care of her, just like we took care of my dad's stupid secretary." My heart raced as their sinister words hung in the air. I had to maintain my silence, unable to let them know I was trapped in the trunk. My mind raced with questions. What had they done to my father's secretary? I couldn't fathom that they would harm me, despite our strained relationship. Desperate to uncover their secrets, I found myself in the trunk of their escape vehicle, my fear growing with every mile we drove. Their carefree laughter and casual singing along to the radio felt surreal, as if nothing sinister was transpiring. Throughout the ordeal, I clung to the watch my dad had gifted me, its presence offering a small comfort amidst the growing uncertainty. The car's GPS system became my lifeline as I watched our journey unfold on the digital map. My brother and Evelyn continued to drive relentlessly, steering us far away from our familiar hometown. Questions swirled in my mind as I observed their actions. Where were they taking me? Desperation set in, and I began to disassemble a small piece of fabric and foam from one of the back seats. This makeshift peephole allowed me to covertly monitor their actions within the car. Evelyn was at the wheel, and I knew I had to bide my time. Hours passed, and we had covered a staggering 300 miles. Hunger gnawed at my stomach, and my legs had gone numb. I was granted a brief respite as they pulled over for what seemed like just 10 minutes. Another hour crawled by, and the urgency to relieve myself intensified. I weighed my options in the cramped space. Desperation finally pushed me to use an empty plastic bottle for relief. It was a repulsive and awkward solution, but it brought some relief. As we neared a gas station, Evelyn announced their intent to stretch their legs and grab a bite to eat. Watching them exit the car through my makeshift peephole, I longed to escape. If only I had a metal saw or a hammer, I could break free. In their absence, I tore at the seat, removing as much foam and seat cover as possible to improve my visibility and hearing. My goal was to remain hidden from their view while maintaining my surveillance. As Evelyn and my brother returned to the car, I caught the tantalizing scent of their food. Evelyn had left some fries on the back seat, and I cautiously reached over to snatch them. Famished and drenched in sweat, I devoured the stolen fries and drifted into a restless sleep. I awoke with a jolt as the car came to a stop, our journey having stretched on for over 12 hours. The darkness outside left me shivering with cold. Glancing at my watch, I noted that we were near the sea in a port. Bewilderment gripped me as I listened to approaching voices of unfamiliar men. A deep voice demanded, "Do you have the payment?" Through my peephole, I witnessed Evelyn handing over a sizable envelope, leaving me with even more questions about their ominous activities. "Yes, it's all there. You can count it," Evelyn assured the man. From my hidden vantage point, I could hear the man counting the money. 20,000. Mason chimed in, providing my father's phone number. "He's probably still at work, so give him some time to get home and find out we're gone before you call," he instructed the men. They nodded in agreement. The roar of motorcycles filled the air as they revved their engines, and with that, the mysterious men departed. Mason and Evelyn hurriedly returned to the car, their voices filled with excitement. "We're going to be stinking rich in a few days," Evelyn exclaimed, followed by shared laughter. My brother's next words left me dumbfounded. "When those guys tell my dad we've both been kidnapped, he'll have $2 million in your offshore account in less than a minute." My mind raced as I grappled with this shocking revelation. My own brother had orchestrated his own kidnapping as part of a scheme to blackmail our wealthy father for $2 million. Evelyn's motivations became clearer, and it seemed her marriage to my father was driven by greed rather than love. Trapped in the trunk, I felt powerless, but I knew I had to take action. I couldn't allow this devious plan to succeed. Desperation fueled my determination to escape. Moments later, Mason and Evelyn pulled up at a hotel, identified as the Sun Lake Hotel by my GPS watch. They retrieved their bags from the car and disappeared inside. With limited memories of a documentary on trunk escapes during kidnappings, I attempted to recall the techniques demonstrated. Carefully, I began fiddling with the wires within the trunk. A sudden shock surged through my body, rendering me unconscious for a brief period. But the taste of copper wires proved oddly encouraging. I bit through them once more, successfully triggering the trunk's release mechanism. I cautiously emerged from the trunk, finding myself in front of the seedy Sun Lake Hotel. My focus turned to Mason and Evelyn, who were in the process of checking into a hotel room. Determined to thwart their sinister plan, I contemplated my next move. In the hotel lobby, I watched in disbelief as Mason and Evelyn stood at the front desk, receiving their room keys. To my shock, they shared an intimate kiss that left no room for doubt. They were involved romantically, likely for months, and now they were conspiring to blackmail my father. I couldn't let their sinister plan proceed unchecked. After they ascended to their room, I seized the opportunity to take action. Sprinting to the nearest phone, I intended to ask the receptionist for assistance. Just as I approached, the deafening roar of motorcycles filled the air. Instinctively, I retreated to the only place I could hide, the trunk of their car. The ominous riders on motorcycles parked nearby, their voices muffled by the din of their machines. One of the men engaged the receptionist, issuing a chilling directive. "We want to know every move you make. You better let us know where you are at all times." The receptionist, perhaps out of fear, agreed to comply and departed. Fearing for my brother's safety, I knew I had to alert him to the danger. As the motorcycle sounds receded, I once again attempted to escape the confines of the trunk. Just as I emerged, Mason and Evelyn exited the hotel, hand in hand, and engaged in another affectionate display. It was evident they were heading for a late dinner, and I had no choice but to retreat into the trunk to avoid detection. With the goal of warning my brother firmly in mind, I decided to make my move while they dined. Despite my disheveled appearance, I cared little for anyone who might witness me as I stealthily slipped into the hotel's restaurant. Darting past diners engrossed in their meals, I reached the men's restroom and took cover within one of the stalls. I awaited my brother, knowing he would visit the adjacent restroom for young boys. Peeking beneath the stall door, I confirmed his presence and without hesitation, unlocked my door, pulled him inside, and his expression shifted from surprise to shock. "Paisley, what are you doing here?" my brother exclaimed, his surprise evident. I countered with the same question, my tone fraught with disbelief. "What are you doing with Evelyn? Are you two together? How could you do this to Dad?" Mason's response was disheartening. "Paisley, you don't know anything. I love Evelyn, and you don't know what she's capable of." It was as though my brother was under some kind of enchantment, swayed by Evelyn's influence. As my brother uttered, "I don't know how you got here, but if I were you, I'd go home right now," it was clear he was trying to protect me. Despite the urge to shake some sense into him, he walked away, leaving me with a heavy heart. Tears welled up in my eyes, but I couldn't let my brother down. He had just saved me, and now it was my turn to save him. Determined, I sneaked out of the restaurant and returned to the confines of the trunk, ready to follow them. There was no time to waste. After their dinner, they started the car and set off. Just when I assumed we were heading back to the hotel, Mason and Evelyn decided to take a detour to a scenic spot where things grew uncomfortably intimate in the car. Hours passed before they finally returned to the hotel, and the sun began to rise. This was my opportunity. I leaped out of the trunk and rushed to the front desk, imploring the tired clerk, "Can I please borrow your phone?" Fortunately, he agreed, likely too fatigued to care. My dad answered the phone anxiously, and I quickly briefed him on Evelyn and Mason's sinister plan. Dad wasted no time. "Paisley, where are you?" he asked urgently. I replied, "I'm at the Sun Lake Hotel in Sun City." Dad's voice revealed his concern. "That's halfway across the country. Are you wearing the watch I gave you?" Affirming that I was, he instructed me to press the green button on top to share my location. He'd assured me that he was on his way. I placed the phone on the table and dashed to the car, slipping back into the trunk. The small light on my watch blinked as they drove to a remote area to rendezvous with the ominous men. Evelyn sat with a laptop on her lap as the men spelled out their plan. "Okay, you two," they began, "we're going to make the call. But as soon as the old man transfers the money, 50% is ours." A heated argument erupted, with my brother, Mason, and the men clashing. It sounded like one of the men had resorted to violence, likely striking my brother. In desperation, Evelyn shouted, "Okay, do it." The man in charge ordered silence as he proceeded to make the call to my father. On the phone, he menacingly informed my dad that they had captured his wife and son, demanding a ransom of $2 million for their release. My father's immediate agreement was evident, and the man read out the bank account details. A notification chimed, indicating the money had been transferred. The man then coerced Evelyn and Mason into a waiting van, asserting, "We're not letting you go until we get our share." Just as they were about to speed away, police sirens approached, heralding our salvation. My dad had alerted the Sun City Police Department, and they had arrived to rescue us just in the nick of time. I seized the opportunity to escape, jumping out of the trunk of the car. Freedom at last. The van fled the scene, with the police in hot pursuit. After a 3-hour, high-speed chase, Evelyn and Mason had managed to elude the authorities. However, a day later, my brother was discovered tied up outside the police station. In his statement to the police, Mason revealed that Evelyn had run off with one of the criminals. She had swiftly transferred the $2 million, making it impossible for the bank to reverse the transaction. In the end, my father and Mason had been made to appear foolish, but the $2 million hardly made a dent in our family's wealth. Following Evelyn's departure, our lives gradually returned to normal, and we once again became a happy family.